Welcome back to the first episode of Zero Deliberations with your hosts, Zach and Trevor. And today we're going to be talking about archetypes.
Yeah, our favorite character archetypes. Roll the intro. All right, so you want to get us started here, Zachary?
Hell yeah. Okay, so I'll start with, for any dummies out there, what is an archetype? So,
It's probably good to define that from the get-go before we just dive in.
I would say a recurring theme or motif or whatever in media or text or whatever.
Yeah, essentially, characters kind of have, these characters all have these same traits because you need a certain role.
Or it could even be, I kind of just thought about it, like, it could be like a thing that happens or whatever, too, not just even a character.
Yeah, well, we're talking specifically today about character archetypes, but there is other storytelling archetypes of, like, the hero's journey, for instance.
Yeah, like things archetype. And shit, yeah.
Yes. So what's the first one you got on your list, brother?
I'll start with the favorite for me, which is, like, the initial bad guy, or I guess you could call it rival, whatever, that, like, ends up coming to the good.
Yeah, so that was an honorable mention I put on here, too. The like redeemed villains.
Yeah, like that vibe. And I think the reason is because, like, I feel like that's me, like, that's why everybody likes their favorite usually, or whatever, but, like, it shows the idea to me of, like, you might be, I don't want to call it, like, rooted in evil, but you come from, like, a bad way. You're in a bad way. Something about your circumstances has, like, you've come out of the filter of life, like, you got a chip on your shoulder or something. Yeah. Something, and then...
But despite that, you can still be redeemed.
Yeah, like, you are willing to give up your ego a little bit to join something greater and, like, cooperate with people usually in those things.
And it's not always the best mix because there's still that old personality that you were.
They're fighting with it a little bit.
Yeah, and that's always makes for an interesting story because it's, in a lot of cases, relatable, because when you change and you grow, it's difficult to acclimate to that right away. So
yeah, like
it's like that on a greater scale.
Right, yeah, and it's like over and over, it's like almost an essential part in, like, all kinds of fucking media and shit, right? Yeah. It's like, or, like, text or literature, and, like, I just think it's, like, important as well as, like, really cool because it shows that, like, if you're in a bad way, you don't got to stay in a bad way. You can go to something better. You can find something greater to put yourself to and, like, find friendship or whatever, love, whatever the fuck it is, Good, like, true good.
So what are some examples, your favorite examples, if you will?
Well, you know me, I'm a big Yu-Gi-Oh nerd, so specifically the third anime, 5Ds, there's they start out...
5Ds.
Yeah.
Fucking makes me think of the one meme.
Five dragons. But it starts out, like, literally right out the gate, as they kind of should or whatever, Dude's, like, his friend basically, they were old friends, grew up in the slums together and shit, and then his friend, like, got offered a deal to, like, go to the big city and, like, get a dueling contract and shit, but he had to steal his friend's shit and, like, get out of the city with it. So dude did that, and then he comes, and that's where the first episode picks up, is right there, where, like, he did him dirty like that because he had a dream of, like, getting out of the slums and shit, so he fucked over his friends, also, like, tied people to rafts and shit and, like, sent them into the ocean. Pretty crazy over, like, a card game. But bro, like, duels him. They end up, like, realizing that they're a part of this, like, divine ancient order or whatever that's, like, reincarnated. So they're called signers, and they have, like, marks on them, and their marks start glowing and shit, and, like, a dragon is summoned, and, like, they realize that something is weird here. Like, we're a part of something bigger, and it didn't seem like our dragons wanted to fight each other. So, like, maybe we should combine our efforts and figure out what the fuck is going on. And that's just, like, a perfect, like, example that I was watching as like an 8-year-old or whatever.
Yeah.
That like I'm thinking about it now. Like wow, that's dope shit. So yeah, I don't know. Oh, and then other obvious ones would be like Vegeta, Sasuke, whatever. Like initial rival, they get the shit beat out of them or whatever, and then they're like, okay, I know I have more to work for and something greater to be a part of and shit like that.
Yeah, Sasuke's weird because you like watch his kind of decline.
Oh,
yeah,
okay.
you watch that becoming of a villain to then make that redemption arc, which is pretty cool.
It's deep. It's like deeper.
Yeah, because like okay, one of my 2 examples of that archetype is Zuko. If you watch Avatar, I watched it as a kid, but I didn't really appreciate it all.
Yeah.
And then I just recently rewatched it because it's like all on Netflix or whatever, and it's fucking gas. And like Zuko and Iroh were my favorite characters.
How many seasons is that?
Just 3.
Okay, 3. Cool.
And it honestly is a fairly short series, and I thought it was longer when I was younger.
Yeah, me too. I thought it'd be like fucking 10.
Yeah, I think it's like 60 episodes, maybe. I don't know off the top of my head, but it's not super long. But it's really fucking good, and you do see like flashbacks of how Zuko kind of became this dickhead and why he cares so much about all this shit. But I feel like Sasuke's development, because it was like the show started and he was a homie and then he kind of fell, it's a lot more impactful and his story's a lot fucking doper.
Yeah. And like he had like, it wasn't just like the rival chip on his shoulder. It was like my fucked up traumatic life that like I've had to come to realize and shit like that. And like now I have the choice of what do I do about it. Like hell yeah, it's pretty deep, bro.
Yeah.
How about you? What do you have for 1?
So my number 1, it's difficult to choose which one I like more. And I feel like you have such a philosophical meaning. Mine is just as a storyteller and shit. It's just something I enjoy.
That's what. That's another way to approach it.
Yeah. So either I'm gonna go with just the smooth talking rogue type character.
Okay. All right.
I don't know what it is about that, but sort of the, they have their own kind of set of moral codes. Sometimes it's not for the best, and they're kind of just looking out for themselves and shit. But they don't. They can use a fucking a gun or a sword if they need to, but for the most part they can talk their way out of things. And I don't know, just something about that, getting into sticky situations and talking your way out of it instead of resorting to violence right away is just, I don't know. It makes for a much more interesting character.
It's also kind of like they're very like tactile.
Yeah.
Like they have a variety of ways to handle things and shit like that. I appreciate that a lot too out of like any character.
Yeah.
For sure. What's an example? I'm trying to think of one.
Well, I mean, the prime example that comes to mind is obviously Han Solo.
Okay, yeah. I'm like, what is the Star Wars one?
Both of the examples I have are from Star Wars. The other one you probably won't know, but it's Hondo Ohnaka. He's fucking pirate from the Clone Wars. But because like my first D&D character I rolled was based off of Hondo Ohnaka.
Does dude have like the mask?
No, he has a weird ass alien fucking face.
Okay.
If you were to look him up, you'd be like, "What the fuck?"
Oh, yeah.
But yeah, I don't know. There's something about the talking your way out of shit. It's just, as I said, like.
Are they typically like viewed by the good guys in the thing as good or bad?
So that's the thing of it can vary with the archetype, which is something I like too. Is you don't necessarily know because Han Solo, he was just kind of like, I'll give you guys a ride. But then they kind of, there was good in him and that came forth. Hondo Ohnaka is a fucking pirate. He's kind of an asshole. And he can sweet talk you while fucking picking your pocket type deal and that kind of thing. And I like the dynamic of it and you don't know.
It can go either way.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
Is there any examples you could think of a smooth talking rogue you like?
Well, the one that I think of from Yu-Gi-Oh! Again would be Crow. Because Crow is like he's a part of what was the original crew with those 2 that I mentioned earlier. It was like 4 people initially. Crow was one of them, and he's always like the mischievous one that's doing his own thing, always like on his own shit, very like tactile and like trying to get out of sticky situations like that, which he does. Like I guess he has like some.
But
good
he's not like
plot armor.
another thing I like though about Smooth Talking Rogue is they're not overtly like if they are villainous. If you were to run into them on the street, you wouldn't know that they're villains as well. That they're
I guess it's a different like thing where he has a little bit of that like anti-hero type of thing where like he's doing kind of bad stuff for a good cause and shit.
Yeah.
Which is like that's cool as fuck too. Like so I don't know. That's what it makes me think of. I don't know if I have any more off the top of my head.
But. Yeah, I struggle to think of any other than Han Solo because every time I see a character like that, I'm like, oh, that's a Han Solo-like character. That's always the term I'd thought to describe it before, and I was like, oh, I guess like smooth talking rogue, if you will.
Hell yeah.
So what's your number 2 pick then?
All right. Number 2. Oh, I got the teacher archetype or like master, whatever.
Well, which one?
It.
Like the wise old teacher who, like...
That was the weird thing is because there are like different kinds of them, and I'm like, I don't know how to differentiate that. Like, what is like the differentiating factor of
well, it depends on their teaching style, if you will, because
I guess the ones that I think of are like serving as reminders or something of like an initial lesson that they've learned or whatever. Like, so I think like King Kai, but people would say Master Roshi. You see what I'm saying?
I mean, Master Roshi in like Dragon Ball, but I wouldn't say as much in Dragon Ball.
Later on, yeah. And like in Yu-Gi-Oh, it's like the same thing where like there might be an initial like teacher, but then later on there's like a regular like full-on teacher that is throughout the series who then will come back later and like basically dude will come back in the form of like a shining orb in like spirit mode and like present himself as like the physical manifestation of good to the character and be like, his name is Jaden, you must remember, fight for blah blah blah, giving him reminders and shit, and like
you must use the Force, Luke.
Yeah, exactly. Where like they're coming back as like a spirit and like.
So like that second archetype of like the master who.
It's like a spirit guide almost.
So the master who dies before their lesson is fully taught to the student, and the student doesn't realize until after they're kind of passed. Like they weren't able to impart all of their knowledge. There's got to be a fucking snappier term for that archetype, but that is. One that is fairly
It's almost like the initial teacher, or I don't know what, bro. Something like that. Yeah.
Because that's like the role Obi-Wan played. But then if we're talking like the wise old kind of teacher.
That's Yoda.
That's Yoda in Star Wars.
And that's like Roshi.
Yeah. And also, I mean, my prime example, I think one of the best written examples, honestly, is Uncle Iroh with fucking Avatar.
And that would be like in the original Yu-Gi-Oh, Yugi's grandfather. Who's like an old man, he owns a card shop. That's where Yugi fucking put together his puzzle that like allowed him to summon a demon and shit. Like, hell yeah. Like, which essentially is like weird because like his grandpa got him like possessed, but it's also fate because like he's the reincarnation of the pharaoh. So it's like, that's awesome.
Yeah,
bro.
I watched like the first few episodes of that show and fucking kind of zoned the fuck out.
It's easy to like not
never
give a
watched
fuck.
it again.
Yeah.
I just remember zone out.
Watch the Japanese one if you feel like paying attention.
I mean,
if not, then dub.
Yeah,
day.
My problem though too, cause fucking I read slow as a bitch. So then watching subs is hard to read everything and see the action going on because I'm too focused on the words. Maybe I'm just dumb.
No, I feel that too, and I feel like it's because like other languages might be a little quicker too than ours. Like we're like slow or some shit, bro.
Yeah, because sometimes they'll have words that don't translate 1-to-1, and they're like 7 words in our fucking language. Yeah. Oh yeah, speaking of Sasuke earlier, here's his son Shiro, and Sasuke's over by you.
Sasuke himself. Hell yeah.
All right.
But yeah, that's a dope archetype. I love the teacher, and I've always appreciated in real life the teacher archetype. So it's like, can't overlook that one.
Yeah, and fuck, dude, Lord of the Rings fans are gonna hate me. I can't think of his fucking name though. The fucking wizard who he fights. You didn't watch those rings, did you?
Yeah, I'm not well versed.
Ah,
I only
shit.
know like Gandalf.
Gandalf, that's his fucking. I could
Oh,
not think of the
okay.
name, but yeah, he's like that kind of teacher too. Of like dies kind of early, but then he comes back, and that's a whole fucking weird
Okay.
thing. But lesson can't fully be imparted until it has. They have no choice but to accept that knowledge,
Yeah,
and yeah.
when they're faced with that,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, the opportunity to use that knowledge that they've at least been partially granted.
Yeah.
Okay. How about you, bro?
So my next one is a villain archetype because
Need that.
because it's just
Need
in stories. I always feel like it offers the best problems for our heroes, if you will.
Yep.
And that's the mastermind villain archetype. The like I've accounted all the different variables of what you might do, or you keep bringing up Yu-Gi-Oh. You played my trap card or whatever the fuck
Hell
type
yeah.
shit. Like
Well,
that.
it would be the main one that sticks out like that would be Pegasus.
Is he the dude that looks like Ghostman?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Literally, bro, because he has his Millennium item that he possesses is the Eye, bro, and that allows him to like know every card that his opponent is like gonna play and shit like that. So like it gives him like foresight. So like you have to break, or like the goal for that was to like break it by essentially like you had to counteract fate. Like I allow him to see fate. You have to like go against fate and shit like that, which was pretty fucking cool. But yeah, that was a
Playing
motherfucker.
against
Oh,
fate itself.
and it's like even more like he knew everything. Like he got that Millennium piece because why? He's the one that he didn't make the card game for like the world as it was in the anime, but he like found the ancient tablets while he was excavating as an archaeologist.
Like the Book of Fate, if you will, or whatever.
Yeah, like he found the stone tablets that like showed what the card game was back in Egypt, and then he brought it to the masses and was like, we gotta remake this as a card game for people. And like bro had the eye and shit, knowing full well that like when they recreated the card game, it was going to like summon up real energy and shit like that. Like it was like a remanifestation of an ancient game and shit like that. So yeah, that's pretty cool.
Yeah, because like shit like that, there's so much like shit to it of how they're fucking super smart, how they've been conniving, and it's like, how the fuck do we beat this? But the heroes find a way, which is it's good for the story archetype of like,
Yeah.
nothing is insurmountable. You can overcome anything,
Right.
and like that's
It seems like all the odds are against you and shit.
yeah. Like this person's fucking been orchestrating everything. They predicted our every fucking move up to this point. How do we beat them?
A lot of times too, especially in Yu-Gi-Oh, it's like the villains. This happens in Dragon Ball too when I watch it. Like the villains often have like what they perceive to be an even greater good that they're working towards.
That's always
the thing.
A good written villain always believes what they're doing is the right thing.
Hell yeah, like it's super
I
interesting.
mean, it's fun sometimes with like the fucking, villains who are just bad because they enjoy being bad. But
Yeah.
it's like, in my personal opinion, it's only really like good if it's like, I don't know, some sort of fantasy setting or some shit where they're like a fucking demon or some shit. Then it's
Yeah.
like, it makes sense. All right, I can understand. But like,
And those characters are cool as well to just throw in there. Like
yeah,
they'll do
they're fun
that.
for a bit, but they're not as interesting and shit, and don't pose as much of a threat.
Yeah,
I feel like
they're not that deep,
yeah,
really. Like
and like so my primary example of this archetype would be obviously Palpatine. He
Yeah.
orchestrated the entire Clone Wars,
Bro
both
was
sides playing
cold.
bullshit,
Yeah.
and just like, he believed what he was doing was good. He wanted order. Sure, tyranny is what he thought was good, but like the way he orchestrated everything, playing into fucking, Anakin, knowing that he'd go to the Jedi Order to get him arrested so that he could have Mace Windu come to arrest him, attack him, be like, oh, the Jedi are trying to kill me, so I executed Order 66 and had them all murdered, and
Oh my god.
declaring the new Galactic Empire. All that shit, like,
Hell yeah.
he's a great example. But if you're not as familiar with Star Wars, because obviously you seem more familiar with anime, Obito. If you watch, did you watch Naruto like all the way through? It's like I got through to like the final fucking battle, dude, and I got so fucking sick of seeing Kakashi's and Obito's backstory every fucking other episode. You get a piece of the fight going on right now, and then you get the entire backstory played again for the next 3 episodes with one new episode
I
added.
heard that. There's a lot you could like
And then
skip.
yeah, and then after that one episode that got added, all right, let's fucking get back to the fight. He throws one punch. This reminds me of play the entire backstory we just watched a few episodes ago. Those 4. Add another one to the end now with the new lesson. And it's like
It's too drawn out.
it was too drawn out, and I got sick of it. But like Obito as a villain, you know, fucking
Hell yeah.
started as Toby, and then he's like, oh, I'm actually Madara or whatever and shit.
Right. Masquerading and shit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Masterminding the entire thing. And then I'm not familiar with Star Wars books, but Thrawn. I mean, he was in the Ahsoka series, but I hear he's way more tactile and his shit. But what's your next example?
It transitions perfectly to the main character. the main character
Which
archetype.
main characters?
Like the protagonist.
Well,
I
there's
suppose.
a million kinds of protagonists.
It'd be like Anakin then Luke, I suppose.
Well, those
like,
are both different kind of characters, though, despite
Yeah.
both being protagonists.
I guess we're like plot armor is hella thick. Who would that be? Like we're like they probably should have died, or like they just couldn't overcome literally anything.
I mean, that's if we're talking about Star Wars, bro. That's like the entire main cast of fucking character per trilogy.
Like who? Like Obi-Wan and shit too?
Well, I mean, in the prequels, yeah, but he couldn't die because he dies in the sequels. But like, okay, if we're talking about not the sequels, the original trilogy. If we're talking the original trilogy, fucking Luke, Leia, Han, Chewie, fucking R2 should have
Like
been
I'm
dead a
talking
million
about
times.
the one like that'll keep like I don't know, like they keep getting stronger, they keep getting more like ridiculous power-ups and shit like that. Like for me it's like Goku obviously, or fucking Naruto, or Luffy now.
So like, if you're talking about, I feel like anime main characters also have a similar archetype, at least for the big ones. Maybe that's the shonen shit because I hear that, but I don't know exactly what that means.
Like battle,
But like they're kind
battle
of
manga.
goofy, they're kind of naive, but like they have some immense fucking power, and they
Well, yeah, we're like, I basically just look at like the way that I was kind of looking at this, I guess archetype, if you will, is the opposition of what we just were describing. Like, who is the central force of the opposing the bad powers of whatever's going on?
So then, yeah, as I said, like the naive kind of character, like a Naruto and shit, is like the
Prime example.
opposite
Yeah.
of the mastermind, if you will, because
Yeah.
they kind of
They don't even.
they don't know what they're doing. They just do it.
That's what I was gonna say. They don't seem like they'd be the one, but they're the one.
Yeah.
You know, like that's kind
So
of the
the
thing.
character of they didn't choose this life; it chose them essentially.
Yeah, like the
Christ-like.
faded one. Yeah.
Yeah.
For sure. Like, I like that just because it shows that there has to be one. Like, there has to be who will bear the weight of, like, I guess saving people or
And it's
making
like-
the right decision, even if it's, like, the biggest decision and shit like that. Yeah, like...
I mean, the idea I like about that sort of archetype of, you know, you don't get to decide whether or not you know, are the savior of mankind or not. But, you know, you should do everything in your power to be
that.
the best you can and to make efforts towards that because it's the right thing to do.
Exactly.
And I don't know, like I like that archetype for storytelling, but for real parables, it's like It's a weird thing. I like it for shorter term stories, but for long term things, I'm more like I want a character
What
who goes
doesn't
through
work
more
about
shit.
it for you?
What doesn't work about it for me is just that. Okay, so someone like Goku, it's like he always just kind of finds that power, and obviously he's going to. But something about it makes it feel as if it's not as much of a struggle as somebody like, that's why I always kind of like Vegeta more, is because he's got his own shit. But like someone like a Zuko, where he's got his own internal battle, he has to fucking get up. He's got to get through.
Like it's less. It's just less dynamic when you're.
It's less dynamic, but
always like, oh, you found a way. You found a way.
Yes,
found a way.
but it's still great to have stories of that ilk because, well, then you can. It inspires hope.
Right. Exactly.
Essentially,
it's a hopeful story.
Yeah. It's not as deep and it's not as like interesting, but it's a lot more inspiring.
And it could yeah, you might always have that central piece, but there's always like a degree of like how central are they? Like, are they super like central to it, or are they being accompanied and helped by a bunch of people?
Which is one reason why I feel like Naruto works a lot more too, is because he's very everyone be my fucking friend because I've been an outcast and shit. Like, it sucks. I just want to have homies. And I feel like that makes it work more because he's faded with his shit. And he's had plenty of opportunities where he could kill evil, but he chooses instead to try to be their friend. And shit.
Right.
And he does also have that internal turmoil with the fucking Nine Tails where, as much as I do love Dragon Ball Z, it's kind of one of the reasons I haven't gotten around to really diving into Super fully is because I feel like Goku just doesn't have that as much. And it makes it so he can't stay interesting to me, at least for as long.
Well, people people just have different takes on, like, I guess everything. But fucking with Dragon Ball, it's like, oh, you don't think Goku like was traumatized by his past? It's like, I get what you mean, but evidently not really.
Right, he really doesn't give a shit. He's very easygoing.
He's very accepting of circumstances and just able to move forward with his life, which is what I really do admire about his character in the dub.
Exactly, it's admirable and
he's
inspiring.
Very he's very always on the surface, pretty much. Never how Vegeta is at a war in his fucking head and shit. He's an airhead and shit, just whatever. But it's it's awesome. But people say, oh, he got fucking casted away onto a random planet for him, and whatever. He didn't know his family, and isolation, and not knowing about what he really was and shit. It's yeah, he might have that, but it really, we just said, it doesn't show through.
Right. It
really doesn't show through. But yeah. Main characters would be another example of that would be in Yu-Gi-Oh! 5D's Yusei, bro. Yusei is 40-0 in the fucking series. And people have problems with that because they're why? How did he never lose?
Yeah.
That's ridiculous. But
see, and that just doesn't. That's not interesting. Characters need to lose. You need to go through hell so that you can be redeemed and you can.
Right, and he goes through other fucked up stuff, finding out that his father was the reason that all this shit pretty much transpired.
But in terms of him playing cards, it don't fucking matter. He's still goated.
You won every fucking thing. Yeah. It devalues the character.
Yeah, because Goku, he still gets his ass beat the first time he encounters a villain.
Right.
And then he has to learn a new power. But it's
he might kill himself when he's blowing up somebody or whatever.
Yeah, but there's no threat to it anymore. Bro. So it's I don't need more of it. I could just watch Dragon Ball Z again if I want more.
Yeah.
Truthfully. So I guess my final archetype. I have another one, but we've been going for a good minute for this short term. So my next one is the non-magic character in a magic world.
Okay.
It's kind of a rare thing, but I don't know, something about okay, so Sokka and Rock Lee are the two examples, and just both of them, everything's against them. Oh, Sokka, I can't fucking bend, and everyone else has got all these magical powers. I hang out with all these cool ass people, and
yeah,
I have a fucking boomerang and a sword. And then, like, he does eventually go and, like, learn to, you know, get better with his sword and all that shit and become a warrior. And obviously Rock Lee becomes one of the best motherfuckers with taijutsu.
Right.
And that kind of, no matter what, the entire world can be against you.
Mm-hmm.
As long as you persevere, you can still be...
Like, there's a place for you.
Yeah, exactly. There is always a place for you, and
that's dope.
that perseverance. Yeah, I love that kind of character.
Bro. Fuck
for
yeah.
Like
that's perfect for Yu-Gi-Oh, bro. Like, go again with 5Ds. It's called 5Ds because there's 5 dragons initially, but then one of the girls that has a dragon has a twin brother named there's Luna and Leo. And Leo is like, it's funny as fuck because the whole series, like in the beginning, first 2 seasons, he's like, I want to be a signer. I'm a signer. Blah blah blah. But he's not. But
what
like,
the fuck's a signer?
Like a chosen one, basically,
okay.
like a reincarnate. And they're like, sorry, Leo, you're not one type shit. But like, bro has a dragon and shit. You're like, it makes sense that he would totally be. And he's like the twin. I guess he was just the unlucky one. But like, lo and behold, he keeps dueling, getting better, progressing, finding his way. And then, like, the character that was the antagonist, that the rival that turned good, he ends up like coaching him, this young boy, and like he like boom gets his signer mark and shit. Yeah. Gets his fucking mark, and like he becomes the 6th signer technically. And like, that's just another example of that.
Yeah.
Like, you weren't a chosen one, but now, like, the Crimson Dragon that is a part of all the 5 of them, like, lent itself an extra part to you because, you know, you're connected to it by blood, but you're also, like, working for it.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that's cool.
Yeah. And, okay, so, like, Sokka or whatever the fuck, he, what is it? He, you watch Avatar forever ago, right?
Oh,
you know, like all the men got kidnapped and shit when he was young, so he was the only guy remaining there teaching the kids and shit how to fight, and he always had that, like, you know, want to be the you know, the male urge to defend essentially.
Yeah.
And he was like a teenager and he fucking sucked at it and shit.
Right.
And all this, and I don't know, the story of watching him struggle alongside these fucking wizards essentially,
Right,
to become know, an adept fucking like leader and shit is it's very inspiring. Rock Lee, oh, you're not ever gonna be a fucking ninja, and then he learns taijutsu and becomes one of the best at it. But I mean, he goes a little crazy with idolizing Guy and dressing, but
no, that I mean, fuck. It's kind of like I don't know. It's kind of like a Gohan to Piccolo type of thing, you know? Like, I remember watching one of the abridged things, and it was like, Goku was getting his ass beat and shit, and it like cut to what looked like Piccolo coming down. He's like, "Oh, Piccolo," and then it was like Gohan. He's like, "Fuck Gohan." Like, hell yeah, bro. It's like that shit will confuse a motherfucker. The Naruto thing confused me for a minute. Like, I was like, "Is that his kid?"
Yeah,
like,
I know.
for sure.
For the longest time until you see the like backstory of all that shit.
Yeah,
but,
like, okay.
Yeah, fuck. Well,
that was pretty cool.
Yeah, so that's been the first episode of Zero Deliberations. Drop a like.
Hopefully people got a good idea as to what an archetype is and shit.
I think they got it.
Hell yeah.
Drop a like if you enjoyed. Comment your favorite archetypes down below.
Yeah, let us know what resonates with you or what you like or whatever.
Yeah, or if you got more examples, because I don't know why I can't think of any other smooth talking rogues, but I know there's got to be some, bro.
There's got to be 1 or 2 more, bro.
Yeah. Subscribe for more videos each week. Thursdays at 6. See you then.
Peace.
Fuck, I keep missing.